Well, if it's Tuesday night at 6 o'clock, it must be time for All Things Brunswick. My name's Bill.
I'm Vinny.
And I'm Mary.
And we're here for another enlightening show to let you know what's going on in Brunswick County. Mary, you want to introduce our guests?
I shall. Thank you very much. Tonight we are fortunate to have with us two county commissioners, Mike Forte, who is from District 4, and Frank Williams from District 5. And they are both incumbents running for their seat again. So welcome, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you for
So
having us.
nice to have you here. Let's start with Mike and tell us a little bit about yourself, Mike.
I have been one of your county commissioners I'm in my 8th year, finishing up my 2nd term. I will be on the ballot again in November. I do not have a primary race on March the 5th, but I am on your ballot in November. And I do have a challenger. I am a very proud Brunswick County resident for going on almost 19 years now. I live in Boiling Spring Lakes. I also served for 4 years as a city commissioner there, and now in my 8th year at the county. I truly believe that we live in paradise. I think Brunswick County is the greatest place to live. I will die here. I'm never leaving. No, I am not born and raised here. This is a New York accent, if you couldn't figure that out.
We're almost Yokes to Bronx.
But I'm amongst friends here today, my fellow Yankees. But I'm looking forward to answering whatever questions this panel might have, and I would appreciate your support and your vote in November.
Thank you, Mike. And Frank Williams, who is from District 5. Frank, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, thank you, Mary, and thanks for having me. I am a Brunswick County native, and Mike and I, when we do our events together, call it Hee Haw Meets the Sopranos. So that's our tagline for our road show for our meet and greets that we've been doing. I grew up here, grew up in a little community up in the very northwestern part of the county, which is very appropriately named Northwest, and we're about a mile from the Columbus County line. My father worked in the paper mill across the county line in Riegelwood for 30-some years, and my mother's family has been in the Northwest area since at least the mid-1800s, maybe before that. I graduated from North Brunswick High School and moved to Raleigh to go to NC State and stayed in Raleigh for 20 years, but then in 2008, shortly after my mom passed, I made the decision to move back home to be closer to my father. Then 4 years later, in 2012, the District 5 Commissioner, Bill Sue, announced that he was not going to seek re-election, and I decided to run in part because my dad had always instilled in me the importance of giving back and of community service, but I also believe it's very important to have business people with a business background, and not just a business background, a small business background on elected boards. I've been a small business owner for over 20 years. Mike was a business owner for many years and sold his business, and a small business owner that has to sign the front of a paycheck knows what it's like to have to deliver value in order to get paid, and we need that mentality in government. We can tell a difference on the numerous boards where we sit between those who have had to do that and those who have not, and that's something I think we both bring to the table. I live up in Leland now with my wife Lori, and we have a world-famous cat that Mary is trying to steal from us.
Yes, I am. I will take Sammy any day.
But thank you for having us.
Thank you for being here. Did you have some questions that you'd like to ask?
Well, I'm waiting for you to, I'll kick in. Go ahead.
Okay.
Oh, we'll get started with me then. Fine.
Yeah.
Guys, people don't know a lot about Brunswick as far as how fast we're growing, as far as what you guys have done as a county commission to prepare us for the future. You want to take some time and just address that, please?
We can do that, and if it's appropriate, I can give a 50,000-foot overview of what county commissioners do in North Carolina, because it is different from many other states. And if you don't mind,
if we can educate, go for it.
I'll do that, and I'm not going to give the long version that I usually give, but North Carolina is different than many other states in that we are not a home rule state. That means that counties are created by the state, and we can only do those things the state allows us to do. And I'm going to give you 6 things at a high level you should know about counties in North Carolina. The first one is exactly what I just mentioned. Counties were created by the state, and we have no autonomy whatsoever. I'm going to read you a direct quote from a book called the North Carolina Handbook for County Commissioners. North Carolina counties have no inherent powers of self-government and no constitutional right to home rule. That means we can only do the things that are specifically allowed by state law. And no matter how good the idea seems or how much it seems needed, if state law doesn't allow us to do it, we can't do it. Second thing is we have a large number of state mandated functions where the state mandates we do something, but they don't give us the funds to do it. A few years ago, I asked our county manager at the time, Ann Hardy, to calculate what percentage of our general fund budget went to things that were mandated. And believe it or not, it was somewhere in the ballpark of 72%.
Wow.
And a third of the balance went to trash pickup. So that's the general fund. Our water and sewer funds are separate. I have a long list of those mandated functions. I won't run through those in the interest of time, but if anybody wants to know about those, you can email me through my website at commissionerfrankwilliams.com, and I'll send that. The third thing is just how much county government impacts your daily life, much more than what happens up in Washington. You know, we set your property tax rate, which one of us will discuss later. We set ordinances in the unincorporated parts of the county. They do not apply in the towns, so the towns control the growth inside their town limits. And one important thing we do is that the county is the lead agency under North Carolina law for emergency management. Fourth thing you need to know is that an individual commissioner has no power. So Frank Williams can't set policy. Mike Forte can't set policy. The policy is vested in the board, and we can only make decisions as a board meeting in an open public meeting. There's no elected county executive or county supervisor like there is in some other states. The county board hires the manager, and essentially we're the board of directors, and the manager is the CEO, and they run the day-to-day. So if somebody asks me, why don't I fire XYZ department head, I don't have that authority. And honestly, our board doesn't have that authority. We've got a manager that we've hired who does have that authority, and we have to respect the fact that there's a chain of command. If I tried to fire a department head, I have overstepped my bounds and probably violated state law. Number 5, and this is important to understand, under state law, there are no county roads in the entire state of North Carolina. That's very different than many other states. Most other states do county roads. Under state law, there are no county roads in the entire state. So every road is either privately owned, which might be an HOA road, municipal road, or a state road. And the sixth thing is that counties and towns are very different. And I'm sure Mike could tell you that, having served in both capacities, but the way I view it, the county has certain state prescribed things we do on a countywide basis, and a town does certain things in a more compact area that go above and beyond what the county does. So that's a very high-level 50,000-foot view, and Mike, I'll turn it over to you if you want to chime in from here.
Sure. Bill, your question was, how are we preparing for the future?
In one of the fastest-growing counties in the country.
We are the fastest-growing county in North Carolina.
Yep.
We are the 5th fastest-growing in the nation. So, yeah, there are issues. And we deal with them every single meeting that we have, and there are 2 meetings a month. These are the things that we look at. Staff presents us with certain items on how are we going to deal with this growth, and discussion ensues, and we vote what we think is appropriate to keep the county moving forward. Progress is coming. You can't stop it. There is no way to stop it, and there are certain things legally we cannot do. I mean, there are those that will come and scream, you need a moratorium, no more housing, no more commercial, no more this, no more that. That sounds nice, but it's not reality. We don't have the authority, we don't have the power, whatever word you want to use, to stop everything. There's this little thing that's in the Constitution, personal property rights. Mary, if you buy a quarter acre, half acre, 1 acre lot, whatever the case might be, and you want to build your dream home on it, I don't have the right to tell you, no, you can't. You bought that land. It's your land to do with as you please. As long as you build within the UDO specifications.
In my city.
In your city, or if it's in the county, same thing. As long as you build to the code, you can build. as can anybody else. It's just the way it is. You said one of the fastest growing counties. When I got elected in November of 2016, there was 116,000 people in Brunswick County. We're about to hit 158,000.
Yep.
So well over 40,000 people have moved in 7 years. That's unprecedented. No other county is experiencing that. Those that claim that we're overbuilt, there's no room for any more, I have to beg to differ. Buildable land is 850 square miles. There's 98,000 homes. Do the math. We are hardly overgrown and out of land. We're looking at it every day. Every day. The planning board is looking at it every day. There is a planned unit, what we call a PUD, a
PDA.
planned unit development. It gets looked at, traffic studies are done, planning gets done. If Bob the Builder buys 3,000 acres right now, today, it will be, I promise you, 6 to 8 years before he ever starts building. It's not something that isn't done very carefully. You don't go out and buy a piece of land and instantly start building. It takes a while. So I think there are 8 million facts and figures I can give you, and perhaps we'll get into that as we move forward. But it's not unplanned.
What are some of the things that are in that process of when he buys it and when he begins to build?
Well, I was going to chime in with some more specific facts. If it's a planned development, then they have to submit a development plan. And I'm not an expert on the nuances of that process, but that's where the planning staff and the planning board negotiate with them to make sure certain things are in there. Stormwater, they've negotiated. DOT's gotten involved and negotiated for road improvements.
Setbacks are met.
Setbacks, buffers. I did want to talk a little bit about the development ordinance. We had this Blueprint Brunswick master plan that we adopted about a year ago, and we're in the process of beginning to update our overall development plan based on that. I actually asked staff at the last meeting to give us an update because it's not moving as fast as I would like it to move. We need to
Is
get
that
feedback on it.
2045 as they come?
Blueprint 2045. One thing I want to make sure that's in there, I don't want to see all of our trees cut down. I want to make sure we preserve heritage trees, that we have buffers. One of the challenges is a lot of that land is forestry land, and forestry land falls under the jurisdiction of North Carolina Forestry Service, which is a
Right.
state agency. Just a few bullets to finish answering Bill's questions of things we're currently working on. The UDO, updating that development ordinance is one thing. Updating our stormwater manual is another thing. We have about $1.2 billion with a B dollars of water and sewer projects either under construction or on our capital improvement plan right now. And I asked our staff, I said, if we complete those, will it handle our growth that was projected? And the answer was a clear yes. In the past about 12 years, developers have actually paid for about $200 million of water and sewer infrastructure that they built and then turned over to the county. So people say, well, why aren't they paying their way? That's $200 million. That's not an insignificant amount of infrastructure. Mike and I both sit on the Cape Fear Rural Planning Organization, which is a regional transportation planning group, and I'm on the Wilmington version of that, and Mike's the alternate. On the rural one, we submitted and really focused on the 211 widening project as our number one priority for our part of Brunswick County, and that is now under construction. You
Yes.
can see it, and it is currently the largest single transportation project ever funded in Brunswick County history in terms of, yes. Mike's on our Economic Development Board. We've brought in the past about 7 years, 5 economic development announcements, 1,100 jobs, and $700 million of capital investment that will be contributing to our tax base.
Wow, awesome.
And another thing we did last year is we updated our emergency operations plan. That's something, nobody thinks about that until the hurricane's on the way. But, as they say in the emergency management world, you plan on blue sky days. You plan when it looks like it is today. And we spent some money. One of our commissioners said, why don't we do it in-house? We did not have the expertise to do it in-house. And we also, if you're in-house, you're not objective. You see it from the inside. We needed outside eyes to tell us everything we needed to put into that plan. The binder is this thick for those looking online. It is a massive notebook of things. And I'll stop talking there and let you guys ask some more questions.
Now, from what I'm hearing, and I just want to make our audience understand that, you guys are getting projected numbers for the next 5 or 10 years for the county, and based on those good projections, you're making plans for water, sewer, et cetera.
When you were talking about overbuilding, how much of our land is state land and parks that the county owns that will never be built on, so people understand that there's still a lot of open area in our county?
As Frank stated, forestry controls a lot of Brunswick County. 70% of the land in Brunswick County, which is 1,000 square miles total, okay, is zoned forestry. We have zero to do with that.
Is that Nature Conservancy?
No.
No,
that's-
don't they own?
It's tree farming.
It's people who raise trees to cut them down and
Right.
sell them for timber.
The state is the one who set that standard, that 70% of Brunswick County is zoned forestry, which is clear cutting.
Right.
You know,
And that-
when people will complain about the clear cutting, but there isn't one moment throughout the day where these trees aren't a part of your life. You write on this piece of paper, this came from a pine tree, okay? You go into Lowe's Home Improvement, Home Depot, you buy a piece of lumber, whatever piece of lumber, it's always pine, you know?
Yeah.
You need a 2x4, that was a pine tree at one point. You look at any house within this county, anywhere, what do they use for landscaping? Pine bark mulch, pine straw, all comes from the pine tree. So we understand it sucks up water. You can't, you look out your window, there are trees. It's not like we're clear cutting everything. It's not a concrete jungle.
And
There's
now-
still millions
Yeah,
of trees in
but-
Brunswick County.
But now you're saying 70% is the forestry, but there's also, aren't there preserves where the state owns them, that nobody can do anything on it, those trees will never be touched?
Sure, the
So
Green Swamp, the 12 county parks that
that's-
we
that's-
have,
So it's even more than
they're not,
70%?
they're never getting touched. Yeah.
So there's a lot more than 70%.
In reality,
In
yes.
reality, that's what I was getting at. So we build on such a small piece of
Yeah.
what we have.
And, there's no guarantee that that forestry land won't be developed in the future, but, one of the things I learned recently, and this surprised me, I knew that agriculture was the number one industry in North Carolina. Forestry was 30% of it. I had no idea. The North Carolina Commissioner of Agriculture stated that at a County Commissioner Association meeting. One thing I do want to see addressed in our UDO ordinances are, making sure we have green space requirements. And the neighborhoods that, to me, are the nicest neighborhoods have lots of trees in them. They have things. And a lot of these developers build in parks and build in ponds and but keeping the trees that are there, palm trees are not native here. So to me, that's, while there are a couple in my yard, they didn't grow there. They were put there. But one thing I do want to point out is zoning is by right. A lot of people say, well, you had to approve every little thing that happens on a piece of property. If it's zoned residential or something that allows residential, you can build a house without having to come through planning. You have to go get a building permit, but if it's already zoned in a way that's residential, people can build that house. And I say that to say this, one of the developments that people got so upset about recently, the land was already zoned where houses could be built, and it's my understanding that the plan that was submitted that they were upset with actually reduced the density of housing that would have been permitted there. But because they saw this big number, there could be more houses without changing anything than there would have been if it had been changed. And having a planned development, I'd rather have a planned development than an unplanned development, because then we can work with them and make sure they've got roads that are where there's more than one way to get in and out. What you don't want to have are a bunch of little individual 10-house cul-de-sacs all dumping onto a main road and no interconnectivity. You need a connected system, and that's where our planning department can and does work with people to make sure that there's a common sense approach to how they're done. So it's, and we had one recently, about a year ago, where people say our planning board never turns anything down. That is not accurate. A lot of times it doesn't even get to the planning board before staff deals with it. But we had one that our planning board turned it down, and a few months later, they annexed into a town who approved exactly what our planning board turned down.
Interesting.
That's that annexation,
Yeah.
that evil word.
I think we're going to break we need to pay some bills, and this is so interesting. I've got 1,000 questions. I'll never get them all in. But anyway, let's break, and we'll be back in a few. Conservative leadership is working in Brunswick County, the 5th lowest tax rate in the state, supporting veterans and law enforcement, expanding water and sewer infrastructure, successful job recruitment efforts to bring good jobs to Brunswick County. Vote to keep Brunswick County Commissioners Frank Williams and Mike Forte, 2 lifelong conservative small business owners working hard for us. Paid for by the Frank Williams Committee and the Committee to elect Mike Forte. Wantana Frank is a conservative businesswoman with deep roots in Brunswick County. A realtor with 19 years experience, she has served as a trustee on both Brunswick Community College and Dozier Hospital boards. She serves as a member of the Eastern Star American Legion Auxiliary, Southport Women's Club, and the Southport Community Unity Commission. She feels a light on Brunswick County, which is at a crossroad of growth. Her wish is to focus on infrastructure, the workforce, and adequate housing for all, but most of all, our youth, the future of Brunswick County. A woman who puts her heart into all she does. Please go to votefrank.com for more information and vote Wantana Frank, District 3, Brunswick County Commissioner. What a great place we all call home. From colorful sunsets to panoramic coastal views. The best attractions are its people, a community of friends and family. J.K. Summers, attorney at law, recognizes this fact and is proud of his work to protect their rights. Put your trust in him to prepare wills and trusts, real estate transactions, contract and LLC creations, and criminal, traffic, and civil matters. Visit oakislandlaw.com or call 910-253-5572. J.K. Summers, attorney at law.
Veteran Awareness sponsored by You Are Not Alone. Today's veteran homeless rate is approximately 19,750, and the numbers are declining because of the various veteran programs. If you are a veteran you know is homeless, please call 877-4AID-VET. This is a confidential and toll-free call. From this veteran to other veterans, please be there to help our brother and sister veterans. Again, the number is 1-877-424-3838. And thank you for your service.
Welcome back, everybody, to All Things Brunswick. Today we have with us 2 county commissioners, Mike Forte from District 4, Frank Williams from District 5, and we are so excited to have them answer all of our questions. And Vinny, I know you've got one, so go ahead.
All right. Well, we're talking about money, so there's going to be a lot of money questions, I guess. When listening to the opponents of our building out here, all I hear the complaints are, our property values are going to go up. How's that going to affect our tax rate?
Okay. I welcome my property values going up.
I
I
do
own
too.
multiple homes, so I think it's a good thing. In our last budget sessions from last year, your tax rate at the time was what, the 9th lowest in the state at 48.5 cents per $100 of home value. Well, the revaluation that was performed in 2022, everybody across the county, everybody's home values went up. That isn't us. That has nothing to do with us. It's what people are willing to pay for your home. Because home values went up so much, we lowered your tax rate from 48.5 cents, ninth lowest in the state, to 34.2. Now the fifth lowest tax rate in the state. For roughly half of the population, your taxes did not change, or they changed $5 or less. So,
Or they went down.
or they went down. A significant amount of people, their tax rate actually went down. Mind you, that is the county tax rate. Has nothing to do with the municipality that you live in.
That's-
Okay, they set their own.
You guys only can only take care of
Right, I
yours.
can only take care of what I can
Yeah.
take care of. So we lowered your tax rate. I literally got phone calls. I'll tell you, I got a phone call from a gentleman that has a beachfront house on Oak Island. He built his house in 2019 for $1.2 million. Mind you, it is beachfront, okay? He called to scream and complain that his property value is now $2.7 million. So I let him go on for the 6 or 7 minutes that he screamed, yelled, and banged his fist. And then I said, all right, my turn? I said, so the house was brand new in 2019. It's 2023. Your house went up $1.5 million. You made $1.5 million in 3 years. You probably still have boxes in your garage you haven't even unpacked, and you haven't so much as painted a bedroom. You made $1.5 million doing nothing, simply living in the house. And he stopped and said, yeah, I did. I said, so your personal wealth has gone up $1.5 million doing nothing. And this is a bad thing. Yeah, but my taxes are going to go up. You made $1.5 million. Of course you got to pay taxes. We're going to lower you, and this was prior to us setting the tax rate. I said, we're going to lower your tax rate to something what we call revenue neutral, which is, in all honesty, an impossible task. When your house increases by 150%, there is nothing I can do. If I made your tax rate 1 cent, it's still not going to make up for that. But you got to say, thank you, God. I made $1.5 million without doing a thing.
And that's not the norm. The norm isn't going to be double the price.
50% of the people saw zero tax
Yeah,
increase or
but
less than $5.
But the average person, the house is going to, even if the price is going up, the value going up 15, 20%, and you're dropping the rate down, so they're not seeing any difference.
None.
See, that's the problem. Well, our values are going, and they don't realize that you're trying to keep everything level. And another thing.
Vinny, let me ask you the question, or anybody on this panel. What is the greatest way to increase your personal wealth?
Oh, your home.
Home ownership.
Your home.
So it did what it was supposed to do.
Exactly.
How is that a bad thing?
Mike, I can't argue that. It's just that the biggest complaint is the values, but they need to understand that your value's going up. You're not going to get your head beat in on taxes because your
No,
price went up.
we do what we can.
You're going to level it out because now you got a bigger tax base to work with. When they put in those other 1,200, 1,500 houses, they're paying into it, and we'll be able to pay for all, and the amount that's coming in and the amount that's going out will be bringing in more money than's going out.
And just to add to that, I'm as a conservative, and I've been a conservative since the day I registered to vote. I believe in the free market, and I believe in free enterprise. And markets determine the price of things that are sold on the market. And if you look at the numbers that come out from the Brunswick County Association of Realtors every month, you can see that the prices are high, the homes are selling quickly, and the demand is there. And I'm certainly not a professional economist, but if you decrease the supply of something that's in high demand, the price is going to go up. So we didn't determine the values. That was based on what the market said. And we've had one of the biggest problems I hear is housing affordability for workforce housing.
Exactly.
And there's a challenge there that you build a $200,000 house and somebody pays $350,000 for it without even seeing it. And that's because there's such a desire to live in such a great place.
Right.
We live in a place that people want to live, and that demand is going to be there as long as it continues to be a great place to live. And that's why we've got to continue to manage the growth. But Vinny, you mentioned something. You could there are two ways to increase the revenue that comes into a county absent population growth, and certainly population adds to it, but one will be to increase the tax rate. We don't want to do that. The other is to increase the tax base. And that's what's happening in this county, and I go back to the economic development. That's why it's important to have commercial development too, because that actually pays its way more than residential development, and the people who move here want places to eat, they want doctors, they want not non-chain restaurants, they want to not have to cross that bridge to buy nice clothes. Now, we've certainly got to do it right, and that's why we're updating our ordinances. But, it's not the county I grew up in, but, change is what we make of it. And no one wants to see our county turn into the place that everyone moved from, which is why we're keeping the taxes low. And I'll let Mike talk more about keeping it from what he moved from if he wants to.
I moved here almost 19 years ago. I ran away from that. I have told people for the last dozen years that I've been elected, I know all the mistakes that were made in New York and New Jersey because I lived there for almost 50 years. I will not repeat those mistakes. I've had this discussion with my fellow commissioners, and I said, no, we don't want to do that, because when they did that in New York or they did that in New Jersey, this was the result. No, I'm not going to repeat those mistakes. I have fought for 12 years to keep our taxes low. I believe in my heart, and I say this daily to people, we live in paradise. I believe that in my heart and completely. I'm not going to let that change. We are looking, this coming Monday, we have another council meeting, and one of the things we will be discussing is the tree ordinance. As Frank had said, we want to try to keep the heritage trees. I have a slight difference with what we're considering heritage trees, but I want to keep the oaks. I want to keep the maples. I want to keep the willows. I want to keep everything that's indigenous to Brunswick County. I want those to stay there. I can't replace a 100-year-old oak tree by planting a new one. I don't have 100 years for another one to get to that size. I want to keep as many as we can. If there is a giant oak tree sitting dead center of a buildable lot, and we can't, relocating it is not an option, because you try to, it just won't take. Okay, the root system is so vast. If that has to come down, I want it replaced with 2 more oak trees on that property. That's my goal. If that'll pass yet, I don't know, but that's what I'd like to see get done. I don't think that your pine trees are a heritage tree. They grow so quickly. I could plant one today.
Yes.
And before my grandson hits middle school, it's going to be a mature tree. So I don't know if that's considered a heritage tree, but it seems to be on some lists. So we need to look at that.
Their lists are going to be, they'll have a list that has every tree involved in
Yeah,
it. So
and I
you
don't
won't be
think
able to-
that's the case.
They are referred to as the longleaf pine, and they have a spot in the forest.
I could grow another one in 8 years. I mean,
I
guys
watch out
that sell
there.
Christmas trees, this is what they do.
They clear and they plant another
Yeah.
area. And then in a few years, they get another one.
Where we are out in the woods, you know where we are, and when I watch them cut down trees, and we're out there 5 years, we're actually living on the property, and you see where they cut down and how big the trees have already grown back where they cut down. So within 10 years, they're ready to reharvest
Yeah,
all
right.
these places. So they move quickly. And again, if you don't harvest trees, you'll end up with the whole forest fire issues. If you don't clear the land once in a while, you'll end up with California or Canada where stuff starts to burn. So I believe it's also an environmental saving
Well,
us.
that brings me to the
California
question I
proved that.
had earlier about the Nature Conservancy. Now, Mike, you and I both know that they own a lot of land in VSL.
Yes.
And so who are they to the county? Who are they in this area? Forestry, and they are different.
Yeah, forestry is the state agency that manages timber, which, timber is when you cut down trees for paper. When you cut down, and a lot of people have what they call tree farms. That my late uncle actually built a lot of the roads in the green swamp over in Columbus County for timber, so that they could go in there and plant timber and then later harvest it and take it to the paper mill where my dad worked and turn it into this paper we're writing on. That is different than conservancy. That's the other thing forestry does is when you have a forest fire, they're the ones who come in and fight it. The fire that happened in the green swamp, we helped them, but that was forestry jurisdiction. And,
Dealing with them, we're walking on fire department. We've had them come out, when they come out with their plows, and it's amazing how quickly they get out there with their equipment.
and they've got a lot of equipment, and it's back to something Vinny said, that fire took a long time to burn out because it was burning a foot deep in the ground from just 50, 60 years of stuff. Now, there's several conservation groups, and some of those people have donated the land to them to keep it in conservation. So that's where, in a lot of cases, the private property owner donated the land to them so that it would stay as green space or whatever. And that's certainly something that if people want to do that with their land, I would encourage them to do it. I don't know that the county has any role in mandating that a private property owner give their land away when they might want to sell it so they can put their kids through college.
What position, or they are an entity here in the county, the Nature Conservancy?
They're not part of county government, though.
No. So they're what?
Probably
National
a 501c3.
or what?
Yeah, I believe they're a 501c3.
But they own their own land.
Yes.
They're a private entity. That's
But
what I
so,
want.
and like you're saying, people donate the land to them, and then they're gonna keep it as a preserve. They can't mandate other people to do it. Only what people give them, or they purchase themselves.
And there's another conservation group, and I can't remember the name of it. I can see the guy's business card that I met that worked there, but I'm blanking out. But people would donate land to them to keep it in conservation as well.
Well, I know that when I was a commissioner in BSL, they were there a lot, weren't they, Mike?
And they still are.
They still are. Anyway, they do control burns there. And they took some of us into the forest and explained to us one day about the longleaf pine and how it grows and how rapidly they can get it to grow and whatnot. It was my impression that they also looked after things like the plants that are endangered.
We have, where we live,
Yes.
the Venus flytrap, the
Right.
tulip plant,
Yep.
the pitcher plant,
Right.
that are protected.
And also, I guess what I'm getting to, the big thing was nobody is allowed to touch their property.
You can't even hike through it.
Nope. Nope. It is so well kept that, so nobody gives a thought to what they own in the county or.
I have not heard that. I've not heard that much about it, much discussion. That's probably,
There's a group, I know exactly what Mary's referring to, but there's a group that is perpetually watching, maintaining, and caring for the Venus flytraps,
Right.
the pitcher plants, because they are protected and endangered. And they have them off of, there is a walking trail
Right.
through that preserve.
Yes.
Where you can go walk, but those particular plants are actually off of that path, and you're not allowed to leave that path.
No.
And it is patrolled, and there's signs up, do not leave the walkway, just in order to preserve those endangered
And
plants.
if they get them, they sell them for astronomical amounts of money.
And there's a generic, like if you wanted to buy a Venus flytrap, there is a generic one that they grow in a lab that you can buy. And if you want to keep one, go ahead, but not the natural ones. Those are protected.
So, Mike, you were talking about acreage in the county. Part of that acreage is not available if the Nature Conservancy owns it,
Correct.
because they will not let anyone build on it,
Nope.
or,
There is a lot of protected land in Brunswick County
right.
that is not for sale, will probably never be for sale. Could that change? I suppose it could, but conservancies own it, and that's their job, is to conserve it.
Right.
So it's not for sale. I don't believe it will, at least not in our lifetimes, it's not going to be built on.
And there may be deed restrictions on it as well, where it could
Right.
only, it could only be sold if somebody was promised to keep it in that certain same usage.
I don't,
If they violated that, it go back to the original owner.
right. My own home, okay, that's what I'll go by for the, I live on 2 acres. My land is as God made it. All we cleared was the footprint of my house. I have a ranch house. The footprint of my home and my driveway is the only thing that was cut down. If you drive by my house today, I have well over 1,000 trees on my property. I don't have any grass. I have pine straw that's everywhere. I put a post and rail fence and a little chicken wire, and my dog's got an acre to go run wild on.
Well, I was just curious because you deal with forestry and contractors and this and that, and just to make mention that the Conservancy is an entity of its own, and they're very specific in what they own and what you can do with it.
People
So,
think that we don't preserve anything. Try to go flounder fishing these days.
yeah.
I didn't want to get into that, but I'll go back to New York, being back. They kept making them bigger and bigger. You can't catch anything anymore.
Right.
But the big companies come in
Right.
and straight blast. So I don't want to get in. That's a whole nother show we can go on.
Yeah, for real.
I would like to ask both of you, is there a solution to the fact that we have folks, especially our first responders, who are unable to find a place to live in our county because simply they can't afford it?
There is no easy answer to that. It's certainly an issue that we've looked at. Mike and I both participated in a multi-county discussion on housing affordability last year, and the challenge is supply and demand. That you build a $200,000 house and somebody pays $350,000 for it. If they're looking for a place to rent, there are not a lot of multifamily rentals in Brunswick County, and because of that, I know a young lady who worked for a nonprofit in Brunswick County. She was living in Leland, and because of the price of rentals there went up so much, she moved to Raleigh.
Wow.
That's counterintuitive. I never, when I lived in Raleigh, would have imagined that the price of a rental in Raleigh would be less than the price of a rental here.
Well,
But it's because there's so many,
Yeah.
and there aren't many here. And everybody raises Cain when there's a multifamily development planned. But we need things like that so that teachers, first responders,
Yes.
policemen, waiters, waitresses, college students, young families have a place that they can afford to live.
Exactly.
I mean, as Mike points out frequently, we are the oldest county in North Carolina. And I'll let him get into those numbers. But if we want to attract young families, they have to have a place to work and they have to have a place to live.
Yes.
And they've also got to have schools. And that's,
Right.
you know,
And we need first responders, and we
We
need
absolutely do.
teachers, and we need nurses, and these people have to have a place to live.
and that's an important component of quality of life is public safety.
Yes.
It is absolutely a major piece of it. And, we had some people a few years ago give us grief because we gave our employees raises at the time when suddenly you were able to get $18 an hour to work at McDonald's. But if we don't pay that first responder, New Hanover County will.
Yes.
And then suddenly you won't have anybody on the EMS vehicle when you
Exactly.
need it.
So that's, you were talking about raises when was the last time the county people got raises?
Last year?
They get a cost of living raise every year along with a merit raise.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's a standard cost of living raise, so at least you know they're getting a raise.
And then we also periodically, I don't know, but we do pay studies to see how we compare market-wise against others and look at similar employers in the same geographic footprint.
That's it, you're taking care of them.
Yeah.
You're taking
I
care-
think it was Mike
That's-
and I that actually brought Boiling Spring Lakes to the future in that respect.
Yes, we did. We did the pay study.
Yep,
Finally
we
brought them to the
did.
20th century, huh?
We did, because, we really looked at what they
If
were.
you don't, you will perpetually lose.
Yes.
We spend a lot of money training
Yes.
employees
I'm
Recruiting.
and recruiting, and you can't put tens of thousands of dollars into training somebody and then Pender County offers them $1 an hour
Yep.
more, and they leave.
And the sad thing is people will jump for the quick
Yeah,
raise.
they do. And I get it.
And you don't blame them. Like I said, I understand that. Like I said, I remember we had a lot of, when my previous employer, we would grab people from other departments because.
Sure, we steal from one another constantly.
We were paying more, so they would be trained. They'd be trained by one department, and then they'd say, "Oh, I'm going to go over there." And
Yeah.
so you have to make them want to stay.
Yeah.
And as far as the affordable housing question, it isn't just about the waiter, the school teacher, the
Yeah.
public safety employee. We are, as Frank had alluded to, we're the oldest county in the state of North Carolina.
Yeah.
Our average age is 53.1 years old,
Yeah.
making us the oldest county in the state.
Bill always mentioned that.
Aside from that, our 65 and over, again, over nearly 1/3 of our population is 65 and over and on a fixed income.
Yes.
It's hence why we keep building senior centers. We're getting the new one out in Waccamaw that's under construction as we speak. Rather than building schools, we're building senior centers. Because believe it or not, and this was a number that floored me when it came to me. When you have over 40,000 people that have moved into our county over the last 7 years, our school enrollment's really only up about 400 students. So we're not doing all these big, huge capital improvements in the schools. We're trying to project ahead, because now we're starting to see a little bit of the families coming in. So we are we're doing capital improvements on the schools, we're enlarging, we're looking for land to buy new. But as far as our school enrollment and kids under 18 years old, we're 99th in the state.
Wow.
99th.
I did not realize
I'm not going to
that.
get into my full rant about the schools because I've ranted numerous times about how they shift the budget around to it. But the last one that was passed, it was 2016,
The school bond, yes,
Yeah, the school bond.
152 million, yeah.
you were able to absorb all of that. It didn't cost anybody anything, correct?
Correct. When that was passed, now, there was a push, it took a year to put out that school bond. It was $152 million. And it was overwhelmingly voted for by the public with like 64% of the vote. And everybody understood that if that bond passed, it was going to cause a 4-cent tax increase. Nobody has ever seen that 4-cent tax increase. Because of the growth, we have absorbed that. So you never got, that 48.5 cents that we were at prior to this budget that we're in now, that had not changed in, what was it, 9 years?
I'd have to go back and look. I don't know.
We never changed the tax structure because growth, it's the old business line. Growth takes care of itself. And so we never had to change the tax rate. And we did build new schools and we did expand schools and everything else, and all the new ball fields at all of the schools and the roofs on all of them.
We'll get into my grumble about them not spending money what it was supposed to.
But all of that was done with zero tax
And
increase.
that was the best thing you guys did. We really appreciate you did that.
Well, thank you.
But I'm going to say my complaint is you've heard it already. That
Okay,
they didn't
so-
spend the money what they were supposed to.
Vinny,
I'm asking the guys that.
we need to break. And so we can come back
Okay.
and you can
It
talk
was
about
spent
it.
as it was needed and where it
Okay, folks, do come back and join us. We have to break and pay a few bills. Conservative leadership is working in Brunswick County, the 5th lowest tax rate in the state, supporting veterans and law enforcement, expanding water and sewer infrastructure, successful job recruitment efforts to bring good jobs to Brunswick County. Vote to keep Brunswick County Commissioners Frank Williams and Mike Forte, 2 lifelong conservative small business owners working hard for us. Paid for by the Frank Williams Committee and the Committee to elect Mike Forte. Wantana Frink is a conservative businesswoman with deep roots in Brunswick County. A realtor with 19 years' experience, she has served as a trustee on both Brunswick Community College and Dozier Hospital boards. She serves as a member of the Eastern Star American Legion Auxiliary, Southport Women's Club, and the Southport Community Unity Commission. She feels a light on Brunswick County, which is at a crossroad of growth. Her wish is to focus on infrastructure, the workforce, and adequate housing for all, but most of all, our youth, the future of Brunswick County. A woman who puts her heart into all she does. Please go to votefrink.com for more information and vote Wantana Frink, District 3, Brunswick County Commissioner. What a great place we all call home, from colorful sunsets to panoramic coastal views. The best attractions are its people, a community of friends and family. J.K. Summers, attorney at law, recognizes this fact and is proud of his work to protect their rights. Put your trust in him to prepare wills and trusts, real estate transactions, contract and LLC creations, and criminal, traffic, and civil matters. Visit oakislandlaw.com or call 910-253-5572. J.K. Summers, attorney at law.
Veteran Awareness sponsored by You Are Not Alone. Today's veteran homeless rate is approximately 19,750, and the numbers are declining because of the various veteran programs. If you are a veteran you know is homeless, please call 877-4AID-VET. This is a confidential and toll-free call. From this veteran to other veterans, please be there to help our brother and sister veterans. Again, the number is 1-877-424-3838. And thank you for your service.
Welcome back to All Things Brunswick. Here with my co-hosts, and we have Frank Williams and Mike Forte as our guests, our Brunswick County Commissioners. As we left, I was asking a question, and we were discussing the school bond that you guys saved. Didn't charge anybody. You managed to find the money within our budget. My grumble, as people have heard numerous times, is that when the money was divvied up and $23 million was supposed to go to the early college school, and they took all that money and gave it to North Brunswick, and nothing went to early college, which I don't think it's fair that the people voted. Like you said, people thought they were actually paying for this, and they thought when they gave them a breakdown where it was going to go, and it didn't go there. Is there anything we can do to make sure that money stays where it's supposed to go?
That $152 million school bond belongs to the Board of Education, not to the county. We are their bank, okay? We hold it, and they come before us and they say, we need $10 million for this project. We are obligated to give them that money. They have, the Board of Education has its own elected board that we all voted on, okay? So they come before us and they make the plea, we think that money, that $23 million, would better serve us at this time to do this project. We really don't have any authority over that. They are their own elected board. So if they come and say, instead of taking that $23 million and putting it towards the early college at BCC, we think it would better serve us, because Leland is the fastest growing city in the county. We need the money spent to expand the high school, the middle school, Town Creek Elementary or middle school. It would better serve us at this time to put the money there. That is their decision.
See, is that when they put out this whole big prospectus on what they're going to do, and they tell you one thing, and it's debate and switch.
Well,
in my opinion, it's debate and switch. So that's,
I understand what you're saying.
And they left that school high and dry.
But as I said earlier, 42,000 people have moved in that 7-year period. So the money was probably, and I can't swear to this, but the money was probably better served putting it into Town Creek Elementary and middle.
Into baseball fields and and.
It wasn't all baseball fields. I
Well,
don't
a
think
lot
they
of-
changed that much.
Yeah, they did the baseball fields, they did the announcements booth, stuff that when you have the brightest, the brightest and best students can't get into school, they could have opened up more seats for it. You would have been able to pull from the rest of the county. And when you realize the early college program is done in 5 years, and it's all done during the high school.
I think it's a
dur- dur-
spectacular program.
During the high school years, because somebody has brought up that they have the free community college.
Correct,
But
Brunswick
the-
guarantee.
But the difference is, this is done during high school, and you don't know how many families can't afford transportation to go to college, whereas this is done with public transportation, so the kids get to school, and they do it in 5 years. So you have a lot of families living in rural areas that are never going to get a chance to go to college because they don't have the transportation they got there. So it serves a lot. And just to them be treated like the stepchild was just. Was
I
our
don't think they
problem.
was treated like a stepchild because there's still capacity. The early college program is not full.
But
So we didn't expand it because it's not full. It's every child that wants to do the early college. I mean, you know my affiliation with Brunswick
Yeah, I
Community
understand that, I
College.
understand that. That's-
I love that school. I've been on their board I'm in my 15th year. Nobody has been turned away from going to the early college program. Was there a plan to give them their own building? Yes. But we're not at capacity for where we are now. So the school board, again, an elected board, felt better to use that money now to build Town Creek Elementary and Middle, which are already at capacity.
But they already had money set aside for that. All this money was taken from the early college, moved to North Brunswick. And like I said, again, this was decided years ago, and you can't expand a school if you don't have the room.
You know, people, and please don't take this
Okay.
personal. People don't care about political parties. They don't care about ideology. They care about how something affects their life. So I understand this affected your
No,
life
it's-
with your own
Well, it doesn't.
kids.
My son got out of it, and now we're
Right.
still fighting for it. See, that's the difference.
But no,
I'm
and I-
looking
and I
for
get that.
the future.
What the school board felt the money was better served putting it into the elementary and the middle, and they did.
Okay,
They
and-
built those two schools,
No,
and they have expanded those two schools
Again,
already.
That money went to strictly to the North. And if they were so, again, this is what we have to do. Why did they do it in a closed budget meeting, and then had it passed in a 140-something page dissent decree?
That
said it
I
was
can't tell you. I'm not privy to their board or at their
But do you
meetings.
understand? If it was all so great, why hide it? Why hide it?
All I can tell you is they came before us and asked for the money, and we're obligated to give it to them.
I
It's
understand
their
that, but,
money.
Is there any way we can hold their feet to the fire to say to give us what we
You would
what we
have to
voted
go
on?
to the school board meetings.
Well, we do.
And just, if you look at if there was an org chart for where local governments, cities, counties, and school boards fall, we would all be equal on the org chart under the state. So, we have a budget relationship with them, and there was an argument that this school bond, because it takes a few years from the day you start working on the school bond till the day it's passed, there was an argument that it was obsolete by the time it passed, much less by the time that it was implemented. And I will tell you this, and I was on the board when we were discussing putting it on the ballot, and it was challenging to get the person I met with from the school board, who will remain unnamed, to articulate to me clearly exactly what they needed and why they needed a bond. I'll just leave it at that.
And we have 2 minutes, folks, so
No, we don't. We have less than that.
we have less than that now. But I do want to tell everybody before we go that Mike Forte and Frank Williams have agreed to come back next week, and so that we can continue this very interesting discussion on Brunswick County. Thank you so much for doing that. And I would wish that you all would join us again next week for this interesting discussion. You will learn a little bit about your county and how it operates. And Vinny,
What?
Thank you for your questions. And Bill was so quiet today.
Always.
Very uncharacteristic of you.
Always.
No, he's just sitting and watching. He goes,
Very unusual.
Let the Yankees go after, the real Yankees go after each other. The New Yorkers. City,
See you guys
city kids.
next week.
And thank you for
Thank
having
you
us.
for joining
We'll
us.
see you guys next week.